Okay, so I want you to close your eyes for a second. Well, don't close them if you're driving, but just mentally transport yourself. Imagine we are not in a studio right now, or your car, or wherever you are listening. Imagine we are sitting in a classic Viennese coffee house,
Oh, I love that.
right? I want you to picture the high vaulted ceilings, the smell of dark roasted beans and old newspapers, just that low, comforting hum of intellectual conversation in the background. You've just pulled up a velvet chair, and we've got a stack of ancient texts on the marble table between us.
It really is the perfect setting for this specific deep dive.
Yeah.
Because what we were discussing today, it requires a bit of atmosphere. It requires stepping out of the frantic rush of the modern world, the notifications, the deadlines, and looking at time differently.
Exactly. We are back with our series on Vedic astrology, or Jyotish, the science of light. And today we are tackling a concept that I think, honestly, everyone secretly wants to master. We're talking about timing, specifically a concept called muhurta.
Muhurta. It literally translates to the moment. In the West, you will often hear it called electional astrology, which, I mean, that sounds a bit dry, like we are voting on something.
Yeah.
But the moment captures the soul of it so much better. It is about capturing the right moment.
Before we get into the mechanics of that, and I promise the listener, we have some really fascinating lists and practical categories to go through. You said something before we started recording that I think frames this perfectly. You talked about a mirror.
Yes. I want to challenge you and the listener to just pause for a second. Usually when you look in a mirror, what are you doing?
Checking my hair, seeing if I look tired, checking for spinach in my teeth.
Exactly. You are checking the state of you. You are the subject. But the ancients, the heavy hitters of Vedic philosophy, they believe that time itself has a face.
That is a very poetic idea, but let's ground it for the skeptics among us, myself included sometimes. What does it actually mean that time has a face? Because to me, time is just a measurement. It is just a clock ticking. 1 second is exactly the same as the next second.
That is the modern industrial view. We think of time as a straight line, just an empty container waiting to be filled by our productivity. We think we are the only variable. But in the Vedic view, time, or kala, is a living environment. It has a mood. It has a texture.
So it's not neutral.
Not at all. Just as you look in the mirror to see your own condition, looking at the quality of time shows you the face of the universe at that specific moment. The question is not just how are you doing, it is the universe smiling at you right now, or is it frowning?
And that brings us to the mission of this deep dive. We are exploring how to read that face, how to choose the right time to act so that our actions actually bear fruit. Because going through the source material, there's a very simple, somewhat hilarious analogy that kept popping up to explain why this matters.
You are referring to the bikini analogy.
I am indeed. The text puts it bluntly, you wouldn't go skiing in a bikini.
No, you really wouldn't. You would freeze to death and you would look ridiculous.
Exactly. And conversely, you wouldn't wear a snowsuit to the beach in July.
Precisely. And you wouldn't set sail on a ship when a hurricane is forecast. It is common sense in the physical world. You dress for the weather. If it is snowing, you wear a parka. Muhurta is simply applying that exact same logic to the cosmic weather.
The cosmic weather.
Right. Why would you start a business or sign a contract or, heaven forbid, get married when the cosmic weather is stormy?
Or, as the text says, when the moon is in a warrior star.
Exactly. If the universe is in a mood to fight, it is probably not the best day to negotiate a peace treaty. You are fighting the current. You might be the best diplomat in the world, but if the wind is blowing against you, you are going to have a very hard day.
So let's unpack the mechanics of this weather report. In Western meteorology, we look at barometric pressure, we look at wind speed. In Jyotish, what is our barometer? What are we actually looking at to determine this mood?
We're looking at the nakshatras.
Okay, nakshatras. This is a term we are going to hear a lot. I want to make sure we define this clearly for our listener pulling up their chair at our coffee table. Is this the same as the zodiac signs, like Aries, Taurus, Gemini?
That is a great question. It is related, but it is much deeper. The zodiac is the broad highway, that is the 12 signs everyone knows. The nakshatras are the specific mile markers on that highway. The most common translation is lunar mansion.
Lunar mansion, okay.
But if you look at the Sanskrit roots, na means not, and kshatra means destructible. So a nakshatra is something indestructible. It represents the fixed background of the stars against which the planets move. Think of them as 27 distinct rest stops or mansions that the moon visits.
So the moon is the traveler here.
The moon is the traveler,
Right.
and the moon moves very fast. It spends about 1 day in each of these mansions. And just like staying in a 5-star luxury hotel, puts you in a completely different mood than staying in a rugged, cheap roadside motel. The moon takes on the flavor or the energy of the nakshatra it is visiting.
And because in astrology, the moon represents our mind and the general public mood, that flavor dictates the vibe of the day here on Earth.
Yes, this is the golden rule of muhurta. It is not superstition, it is about alignment. It's about swimming with the current rather than against it. Kala, or time, is the force that brings events to maturity. If you plant a seed in winter, no matter how hard you pray, it will not grow. You have to wait for the season.
That makes perfect logical sense.
Muhurta helps you find the season in the microcycle of days.
I love the example from the notes about the romantic conversation. It really clarified the practical application for me. It is like, if I try to have a deep, soul-bearing talk with my partner while they are rushing out the door, spilling coffee, late for a meeting, that is bad timing. The energy just does not support the action.
And the result will likely be frustration or conflict. But if you wait until dinner, when the workday is done, the candles are lit, and the energy is settled, that is a good muhurta. The action is the exact same talking, but the time creates a completely different result.
Okay, so we know we need to check the weather. But how do we read the map? The sources, specifically drawing from Ernst Wilhelm's classifications, categorize these 27 stars into specific qualities. This is the part I found fascinating because it is so practical. It is almost like a menu of what you should and shouldn't do on any given day.
It is a classification system that has been used for thousands of years. It answers the question, is today a bikini day, or a snowsuit day, or maybe a tuxedo day?
Let's walk through these categories. I want to give the listener a real sense of these flavors so they can spot them. The first one on the list is the fixed stars, or sthira.
Sthira means steady, stable, unmoving. These are the stars you want when you are building something you want to last forever.
So high durability. What kind of actions fit into this bucket?
Think about laying the foundation of a house, or planting a tree, or, arguably the most important one for most people, marriage.
Because you want the marriage to stick.
Precisely. You want it to be like concrete. Once it sets, it does not move. The classic example here is the star Rohini, which is known as the growing one. It is extremely fertile and stable. If the moon is in a fixed star, the cosmic energy is heavy and slow. It holds things in place.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second. You wouldn't want to start a short road trip on a fixed day, right?
No, because you might get stuck. Or the trip might just feel incredibly sluggish, like dragging a boulder uphill. You don't want fixed energy when you need speed or flexibility. If you want to be able to change your mind later, don't do it on a fixed day.
Which leads us perfectly to the next category, the movable stars, or chara.
Chara means the wanderers. These stars are ephemeral, changing, quick. Examples would be Swati, which is associated with the wind, or Punarvasu, which means the return of the light.
I actually joked in my notes that if you bought a car on a fixed day, maybe it would never leave the driveway. But a movable star is perfect for buying a car.
Yes, because the entire purpose of a car is movement. You want it to go. These days are also excellent for travel, for gardening, specifically things that grow fast and change, or even going to the gym. Anything where you want to generate momentum and change your state. If you feel stuck in a rut, act on a chara day.
Okay, so fixed is for pouring concrete. Movable is for momentum. But what if I need something done fast? Not just moving, but done and dusted. That brings us to the swift or light stars. Kshipra?
Kipra, or Lagu, means light-handed, dexterous. These days have a quick, sharp energy. They are all about immediate results.
The sources mention the star Hasta here, which literally translates to the hand. That seems very specific.
Hasta is a fascinating one. It represents the hand, so it's specifically good for grasping what you want. It's ideal for business deals, sales, trade situations where you need to shake hands and close a deal quickly.
So it is that transactional efficiency energy.
It is. It is also good for administering medicine. If you take a remedy on a swift day, the idea is that it acts fast to cure the illness. You wouldn't want to take medicine on a fixed day. You don't want the illness to become stable. You want the remedy to come in, do its job, and leave.
Wow, that is a great point. I hadn't thought of that. You definitely want the illness to move on. Okay, moving on to my personal favorite category, the soft or tender stars. Midu.
Ah, yes. The gentle ones. This is, as you put it in your notes, the Friday night energy of the cosmos.
Right. The list of activities for these stars is just fun.
It is. Miragashira, which is the deer's head, or Revati, the wealthy. These stars are friendly, sensitive, and geared toward enjoyment. They are best for making new friends, wearing new clothes for the first time, learning music or dance, and romance.
Why wearing new clothes? That seems so specific. Is that really a whole category of action?
In the ancient world, and honestly even today, clothing affects consciousness. It is about the sensory experience. You want the experience of the new fabric to be pleasant, to make you feel good. You want to feel attractive. Murdu stars support that softness and sensory delight.
So if you are planning a first date, definitely check for a soft star.
Absolutely. The atmosphere is permeable and sweet. It supports connection. If you try to have a serious, hard-nosed business negotiation on a Ridu day, you might find everyone is too relaxed or too sensitive to drive a hard bargain. You might give away the farm because everyone is just being so nice.
Now we have to look at the other side of the coin. Because not every day is sunshine and romance. We have the sharper, dreadful stars. Tikshna.
This is where it gets really interesting and where people often misunderstand astrology. They hear dreadful and think, oh no, I should stay in bed. But in the Vedic view, every energy has a utility. Even poison can be medicine in the right dose.
What are these stars used for then?
These are stars like Ardra, which translates to the storm, or the moist one in Mula, the root. Their nature is harsh, cutting, and separating.
The source material had a really intense real-world example about this. It mentioned Hurricane Katrina and the Asian tsunami.
Yes, it is a sobering statistic. Both of those devastating events hit their peak destructiveness when the moon was in Ardra, the storm star. It shows the sheer power of this energy to tear things apart.
So that sounds terrifying. Why would I ever want to intentionally use a day like that?
Because sometimes you need to tear things apart. These days are prescribed for demolition, for getting rid of pests, for ending a bad relationship that has dragged on way too long, and interestingly, for surgery.
Surgery. That seems counterintuitive. You want to heal, don't you?
Think about the mechanics of surgery. It is controlled violence. You are cutting the body to heal it. You need a sharp energy to cut cleanly and separate the bad tissue from the good. You wouldn't want a soft star for surgery. You don't want the surgeon to be hesitant or sentimental. You want them to be precise, ruthless with the scalpel, and effective.
That makes so much sense when you frame it like that. It is tough love energy.
Exactly. If you have a task that requires you to be completely unyielding, this is your weather.
And then ramping up the intensity one last step, we have the fierce or aggressive stars, Ugra.
These sound similar to sharp, but there is a nuance. Sharp stars are for cutting and separating. Fierce stars are for overpowering.
Give us some names for these.
Harani, the bearer, and Maga, the mighty. These possess a warrior energy, reckless, intense, brave. The metaphor here is you don't send a diplomat to do a soldier's job.
So use these days for the battles in your life.
Yes, confronting enemies, competitive sports, doing difficult tasks that require sheer bravery and force of will. If you have to fire someone or stand up to a bully or do something that scared you, an Ugra star gives you the cosmic backing to be aggressive.
It is amazing how specific this all is. It completely shifts the perspective from is today a good day to what is today good for?
That is the essence of Muhunta. It removes the victim mentality. You are not a victim of bad luck. You might just be a surfer trying to catch a wave on a flat lake. You need to wait for the swell.
So this brings us to the user manual part of our deep dive. We have this incredible map, this classification system. But for the listener sitting here with us, sipping their coffee, thinking, okay, but I can't memorize 27 stars and their Sanskrit names right now, what do they do?
First, relax. You don't need to memorize them all today. This deep dive is the overview, the wide-angle lens. We are just showing you the landscape.
And here's the tease for the listener. We are going to go deep.
That is right. In the upcoming series of deep dives, we are going to explore each of the 27 nakshatras individually. We will look at their symbols, their deities, their myths, and their specific powers.
So you can use these future discussions in two ways.
First, for self-understanding. You can look up your own birth chart. Where was the moon when you were born? That star is your permanent emotional weather. If you were born under Ardra the storm, you might find that emotional turbulence and transformation are key themes in your life. If you were born under Revati the wealthy, you might be naturally nurturing and social.
And the second way is for daily navigation.
Right. This is where the rubber meets the road. You can get an app or a Vedic calendar, a panchang, and simply check, where is the moon today?
It is really that simple, just checking where the moon is.
It is. So if I check my app and see the moon is in Prani, the fierce star, maybe I pause. Maybe I reschedule that sensitive performance review with my employee. I realize the energy is too aggressive for a nuanced conversation.
Instead, you reschedule it for a Pusha day, the nourisher, when the energy is supportive and growth-oriented.
Exactly. It is not about magic. It is about emotional intelligence applied to time. It is about giving yourself the best possible chance of success.
It really is about awareness.
It transforms your relationship with time. Instead of fighting the day, you observe it. You ask, what is the quality of this moment? And you adjust your sails accordingly.
Okay, let's recap the golden rules before we wrap up this session. Rule number 1 time has quality. It is not neutral.
Rule number 2, don't ski in a bikini. Match your action to the nature of the star.
And rule number 3, there are no bad days, only appropriate and inappropriate actions. Even a day of destruction has its purpose if you need to destroy an obstacle.
Precisely. Even the storm has its place in the ecosystem. Without the storm, the air doesn't clear.
I want to leave the listener with a thought you mentioned earlier about the shape of time. We touched on it in the intro, but I think it is a beautiful place to land.
Yes. In the modern West, and largely in our industrial lives, we view time as linear. A straight line starting at birth and ending at death. A race to the finish line. We're always running out of it. It creates a tremendous amount of anxiety.
We are always late.
Always. But in the Vedic view, and really in all ancient wisdom, time call is a wheel.
A wheel, meaning it comes back around.
Exactly. Seasons return. The moon returns to the same star every 27 days. The sun returns. By understanding the nakshatras, we stop running blindly on the treadmill trying to get somewhere. We start to learn the rhythm of the wheel. We learn that opportunities return, that there is a time to sow, a time to reap, a time to fight, and a time to rest. And when you live in that rhythm, you stop being anxious about time running out and you start trusting the cycle.
That is a comforting thought. We are not running out of time. We are just moving through the mansion.
We are just moving through the mansions,
Yeah.
and tomorrow, the moon will move to a new one.
Well, on that note, we are going to close the books for today. But don't go far, because next time we begin our journey through those individual mansions.
We start at the very beginning of the zodiac with the first star Ashwini, the horse-headed physician. It is the star of speed, healing, and new beginnings.
I cannot wait to get into that. Thanks for pulling up a chair with us today. Check your local cosmic weather report, and we will see you in the next deep dive.
Goodbye.